everyone. Welcome to Hollywood Mindset TV. Today I have another great episode for you. I'm really excited to introduce everyone to Phillip Galinsky. He's an acting coach, a voice actor, and he does so much more. I can't wait for him to share his journey with you. Phillip, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So before we get started with our interview, I just want to let everyone know a little bit about Hollywood Mindset TV, why we're doing this, and the thought process behind it. So what we've realized through interviewing so many talent is that so many talent come into the entertainment industry with the wrong mindset. They are thinking more about finding an agent or a manager than the things that they actually need to do that are the most important, like booking a gig, actually getting paid for their craft, or having the mindset of someone who casting directors and agents actually want to work with. So with that thought in mind, we have Phillip on the show today because he has that exact mindset. So Phillip, can we get started by you telling my audience just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm an actor, writer, producer. I started producing the Manhattan Monologue Slam, and that turned into the National Monologue Slam. And from creating my own work, I was able to get work within the industry because they saw me as someone who had a proof of concept, who had an audience, and they wanted to leverage that. So from there, I got my voiceover agent. I've been on Dora The Explorer, was the lead kidnapper on Grand Theft Auto 5. And this year, I just booked an episode as a featured actor on Law and Order. And most of it I attribute to just me creating me and then letting the chips fall where they may, because you have more control that way. I've been on Comedy Central, MTV. So like if you Google me, there's tons of commercials and TV shows and stuff that I've done. But I'm most proud of the way I started and continue to grow as an artist. So it's very fulfilling and validating to cross over to mainstream commercial stuff, because that's where the money is, which is not bad,
Money is a good thing, right? So let's dive a little more into, you said the reason that you are where you are is because of you creating you. Can you talk a little bit about that for my audience?
Yeah, like when I first started, I thought I was supposed to be something that they wanted, or some sort of image that I saw for other actors. And I'm not 6'3", I don't have blonde hair. I have a beard. So all those things, that the assets that I had at the beginning, I got away from because I was trying to please people, or at least assume that's what the industry wanted. And it took me a while, but it was completely reverse of what really is what it is, which is if you're you, the work will come, like if you're you. But if you're trying to do something to placate, or trying to do something where you think the casting director, this is what they want, that's wrong, because they don't know what they want. If they knew what they wanted, they'd hire their friend. Mm-hmm. So they're waiting for that person to come through the door. They were like, wow, And so it took me a while, and it took me a while because it's a confidence thing and it's a risk thing. Like, do I trust who I am and what I am? And without doing stuff for myself, booking work for myself, I wouldn't have the confidence of doing what I'm doing now.
Okay. Well, how did you go about that transformation? Like you said, you booked work for yourself. So how did you go about do that? What did that journey look like for you?
I think for the actors, for the most part, going on auditions, any audition is like a class, because you learn so much, because you're in the waiting room. You can look at the people around in the room and go, well, all these guys look the same. And then the light bulb went off after like 3 years, where I'm like, well, I'm in the waiting room and I don't look the same. So I think I got a better shot than these knuckleheads, because they're all, parted hair on the right side, and they're trying to be the perfect vision of what they think the casting director wants, and the casting director doesn't know what they want. That's why they have a casting. So when I sit there and they look at me and they judge me and like, this guy's not going to get it, I'm like, bro, I got a way better shot than you because you look like the 5 guys next to you. Mm-hmm. So when a casting director sees 6 or 7 people that look the same, they're numb to it until someone comes in who has a little, and it doesn't even have to be that much. It's not like I'm telling everybody to grow a beard or whatever. I'm saying just find out what your twinkle is and make that shine in the audition. And whether you book it, you book it. If you don't, you don't. But that was the master class for me where I was like, oh, now I get it. I get it now. I get what their job is and what my job is. Because one of the biggest teachable moments when I'm coaching is like, do not try to kiss the casting director's butt about talking about their dog or their kid or whatever, because it's a huge insult, because you're there to do the audition. You're not there to talk about their social life. And if you start doing that, they're insulted because, I mean, they'll be polite and nice to you, but they're insulted because they're like, are you here for the audition or are you here to talk about my dog? And if you're here to talk about my dog, then I'll go and grab a cup of coffee with you, but I'm not going to audition you.
Yeah, that's a great point, because there were so many great points in there. First of all, the one thing that I heard was like, you have to learn to be fully you in order for people to actually want to work with you. Because I mean, I see so many people, and like you said, they're all cookie cutter. Like they want to do this, that, their hair is the same length, they have the extensions, the eyelash, all those things. When what a casting director is looking for, or just someone in general is looking for, is someone to be authentically who they are. And that's something that'll set you apart. So that's definitely one of the biggest takeaways. If you don't take away anything else from what we talk about, and I know we're going to talk about a lot more, definitely take that away from it. You definitely want to make sure that you are fully you. And it's just so important. It's so important to do that. So would you say that your mindset was an obstacle that you had to overcome then to start finding a certain level of success?
Yeah, I think, my mindset was, because if you want to do this and you're looking at the industry from the outside in, so you see people that are successful and then you say, oh, well, then I'll just copy that plan. It doesn't work like that, because if it did work like that, then everybody would be a movie star.
Yeah.
So I kind of took a step back, because my mind was like, well, if you do this, then you get to there. And I'm like, no, point A doesn't equal point B. And then I started looking at people that I like. This is what I would tell any actor, writer, producer, is like, look at people that you're attracted to, you like their work, and find out how they started. So I like John Leguizamo, and I like everything he does, whether he's in a movie or a TV show or what his live performance is. But he started as a live performer, and he just did what he did, and then said, people will gravitate to what I do. If I get on TV, I get on TV. If I get in a movie, that's great. But I'm going to be who I am. And it takes two things. It takes creative thinking of who you are, what you want to be, and courage to do it. Yeah. And those were the two biggest obstacles of me, because the courage was like, what if people don't like what I do, right? And then the creative thinking was, what if I'm not making stuff that's cool? And so those were the two biggest obstacles, because I could, and this is stupid, but I could say, well, it is great. It's me. It's just great because I wrote it.
Yeah.
But it's until people see it, and then they give you the filter to edit what works and what doesn't work. Because you could be as stubborn as you want and say, no, this is really good. What I wrote is amazing. But if no one reacts to it, then you got to get rid of it, because you need a reaction to create action to move you forward in whatever you want to do. So it took a while, because when you're creating this, whatever you're creating, you're going to have self-doubts, because people are going to poke holes at it and they're going to say, this is stupid. No. But you got to keep doing it, because if you don't do it, it doesn't evolve and it doesn't change. and adapt. And that's where the light bulb went off, and I said, I can change and adapt. I'm not gonna be stubborn enough and say this is it, because if that's it, then that's where I'm at, and it's not gonna move forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a lot of times people see criticism as a negative thing, but so many times, as long as it's someone amongst your peers, if it's someone who's jealous of you or someone, a family member or a friend who doesn't understand, like that's one subject that we could just toss to the side, because you shouldn't listen to those people anyway. But when you're getting criticism or critiques from people that you respect, that have your best interest at heart and also know what they're talking about, then that's a totally different thing. Because so many times before I started doing this and before I really started talking to people like yourself and people who are getting into the industry, I thought, oh my gosh, everyone is so full of ego. And what I've actually found is that people with the least ego are the ones that are the most successful, because you have to put your ego to the side so that you can always be perfecting your craft.
Right. It's one of these things, like when you said, when someone critiques or criticizes, the translation shouldn't be critique or criticize. It should be refine. Because really what they're saying is, well, I like what you're doing, but it takes too long to get where you're going. Like, I wish this thing was shorter. I wish that it. So it's almost more editing. Yeah. And if you look at it and get offended, you're not really listening to the critique, because the critique is about, hey man, your stuff is good, but if you shortened it, because we're in a society of everything has to be shorter. And that's a problem, because if you write it out and you're like, oh, it's beautiful this way, and the audience is like, it's too long, I can't pay attention that long, So shorter is better at this point in time, which means the critique isn't that your stuff is long and boring. It's just like, get to the point quicker.
Yeah.
Right. And the interesting thing is, it's everybody wants to get to the point quicker, but then people will listen to a 90-minute podcast. So you can't win either way. Like if you're trying to have a solution and say, well, this is fast and this is long, it's like you gotta pick your poison is really what it is.
That's awesome. So I know you mentioned that you do coaching. You work with a lot of people that obviously need coaching. So what is something that you see that a lot of your students have in common that they need to work on? Like, not besides the refinement of their acting skills, which is obvious, which is why they're coming to you. But what is like a stumbling block or an obstacle that you see a lot of your students have to work through?
There's a couple for especially the I would say the students that are breaking in. One is they pick a monologue that's popular, either that everybody knows from a monologue book or from a movie, and that's the absolute worst thing you can do, because most agents and casting directors have seen every monologue from a monologue book, or if you want to be Denzel, from Training Day. So once you do something from a movie, you've dislocated the person you're performing for, because they're going to reference the movie while you're performing and go, oh yeah, I should rent that. I don't know. I should buy that or download that. I can't remember. So that's one. And then two is, and this is very critical, and I'll be harsh, is knowing your type. So I'm a Adam Sandler, Ben Stiller type. That's my type. That's when I walk in the door, that's who I am. And there's a lot of people that are getting monologues and doing things that that's not their type, and they don't want to hear the truth that, look, you're a working class mom. That's what you are. Mm-hmm. You can't come in as a prostitute. You can't come in as a flea secretary. That's not what your headshots look like. That's not anything. I mean, that could be what you aspire to, and that's great. But to get in the door, you have to play your type. And until then, it's pointless to try to do something else, because no one's going to listen to you or watch you, because they're going to be like, why are you here? Like my whole thing is, when I coach, is leverage your assets. And the most disheartening thing is that most of the actors don't know what their assets are. They think they know.
Yeah.
Right. And then when someone gives them a critical eye, most of the time they get upset, but then they go back with me and go, yeah, you're actually right. This is what I am right now. I booked more work with this beard than I ever have in my life. So am I going to shave it? Hell no. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So whatever it gets you the work is going to get you the work that gets you the work that gets you the work to do. So if in 10 years from now, you're the sexy woman that drives a Ferrari, it took you 10 years. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you would never got there if you tried to drive the Ferrari when you started, because no one's going to believe you. They'd say you drive a station wagon and you have 2 kids in the back. That's what it is. So I think most actors don't want to eat it for a minute, but they got to eat it.
Yeah.
You have to eat it. Like, you got to swallow your pride and understand where you're at. And if you want to make that like wholesale change, then that's like 3 gym memberships and a diet program. And I'm not into that. The beard is easier than that.
I love that point, because we talk about that a lot, like behind the scenes. We have so many people who want to do certain things, but if they would just go for their type, like you're saying, like there's one person in particular, like this person could be like the mom next door, but she wants to be like the super, like you said, the super hot mom driving the Ferrari. No, you have to be who you are. And I love that you said you can grow into that part, but get your foot in the door by being fully who you are. Like, I guess that's the theme of our whole show: be fully who you are. Like, own your assets.
But the thing is like what they don't understand is that their agent is trying to sell you to the casting director to get you the audition. So the agent's going to say to the casting director, yeah, Philip's like an Adam Sandler, Ben Stiller type, right? When I walk in the door, that's what I look like, right?
Yeah.
He's not saying I'm Luke Wilson or Brad Pitt, because when I walk in the door and they go, he doesn't look like Brad Pitt, right?
Yeah.
So if my little kernel of advice to everybody who has to eat it and be like somebody, then in 10 years, they're going to say, hey, we want someone that's a Phillip Galinsky type, right? Yeah. And then I've made it, because now I'm a type, right? Yeah. And other people have to be like me, where that's like hugely important, but no one needs to know that I ate it for 10 years on Adam Sandler and Ben Stiller's coattails. Like, no one cares. No one even knows. The only people that know are the industry.
Yeah.
So, and then there's one other thing I'd say that is a huge, not an obstacle, but a huge mistake that these guys that are breaking into the industry is like, when you get an audition, go to the audition, do the audition. You don't have to post it. You don't have to talk about it. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter until you get the final copy of your commercial. Then that's you. Then you can post it. All this stuff about I'm going on this, I'm doing this, it doesn't matter. And it actually hurts you, because the industry is going to be like, well, we can't audition this guy because he talks too much. Wow. He's gonna tell everybody that he's auditioned for a Verizon new phone. Verizon doesn't want people to know that.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't care that you're doing it. The only thing I care about is the commercial comes out and it's running, and then you go on social media and say, hey guys, my thing is up, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many auditions that you go on that you don't book that it's pointless to even mention them, because it doesn't matter. The good thing is that you're going on auditions, so shut up and just keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean, just talk about the fact that you're going through the audition process, but don't be specific, because then you just look silly.
Right.
Yeah, I have a friend who's an actor who texted me pictures. He didn't tell me what he was doing. He said we were supposed to meet up or have a meeting or something like that, and he texted me pictures of him like in the prosthetics that he was getting, but he never told me. And it was 2 months later. I'm like, oh my gosh, so that's what that was all about. Right, but it was like, it was something that was already in process because they were fitting him. But he didn't text me like 3 days before, oh gosh, I'm up for this role in this commercial. It's going to be awesome. Because I think that's a part of professionalism too. Like, you have to keep a lot of things under your hat. Like, you can't show all of your cards, because
it doesn't even matter until you really book it, right? Like, and even if you book it, sometimes it doesn't even go all the way to fruition. I was supposed to be the voice of lemonade for McDonald's, and I had booked the recording, and then it never went anywhere. So it doesn't even make any sense to talk about something until you like tangibly have it. And that's one of the things that the young actors have, is that they're insecure, and if they don't have something to validate so it's like, it's a journey. It's not like the only end all be all is if you book a Law and Order, and I did, but book it like a main character, then you're working for 20 years and you can post whatever you want. But most of the time, and this is what the young actors don't understand, is every campaign is very highly scrutinized and tightly watched. So like, even if you audition, you have to sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement, which means you can't even tell people, hey, I just auditioned for the next Marvel movie. Like, it's that top secret, where if they're going to those lengths, then you need to shut up and just do it. Yeah. And then if you're on the big screen, that's great. Like when I did the Law and Order, I didn't even tell anybody, and then they saw it and they all started emailing me and like, why didn't you say anything? And I'm like, well, one, I can't. Two, everything's on a DVR. So even if you missed it, you can go back and get it. So there's no real reason for me to beat my chest about it, because it's out there. It's out there. So that's it.
Yeah. Let your work speak for itself.
Exactly.
Awesome. So speaking of work, when we were in New York a couple weeks ago and you did the mastermind, I've been talking about this probably on nearly every podcast and every live that I've done, but I was my mind was blown when you were doing the coaching with everyone for their monologues and for their scene studies, with the different exercises that you did. Like the ABC one with the one girl, she was doing her monologue and writing the ABCs. That blew my mind. So can you talk, I don't want you to give any of your tips away or anything like that, but can you talk a little bit about like how you came up with that method? Because I've been intrigued since you did that.
When I was training, I was given different exercises by different acting coaches, and I did them pretty well. And then, they would explain why you were doing it. And then I wanted to go to a next level, and they didn't have a next level. And I said, but I have these ideas, and I think that, they really frustrate me, and I want to get better at them. And they're like, no, these are too complicated. These students can't do it. And I was like, no, because they got through level 1, they can get to level 2. And I started doing it in my coaching. And then what happened was a lot of students were so intimidated by it, and they didn't follow up with me. They're like, you're a jerk. These are too hard. And I was like, no. Because that's when I do the thing, I preface it and say, look, you're not going to do well when we first do it, but eventually you're going to get really good at it. So don't get discouraged. And that's when I put it in place. And then once I started finding actors that really embraced it, I upped the ante to even bigger than the alphabet and other things. And I realized, wow, like we're on a next level of teaching and coaching, where they're empowered, because I'm not discouraging. I'm telling them it's hard. Like I'm saying, it's like very.
Yeah, you were very blunt about it. This is going to be terrible. This is going to be terribly hard.
But if you can keep doing it, it makes a lot of sense in what you're going to do with your acting. And when I did I told them, when I did the Law and Order, I came on set and I didn't have an action. I was an auto mechanic, and I was going to say lines to the 2 main detectives, but I did not have an action. But I knew when I got on set, they're going to give me an action. So I had to be prepared to do anything. Mm-hmm. And that's what those exercises are about, because it was at once, because that's what you're going to do. When you're acting, you're acting and reacting, but there's a physical action with everything. And if it doesn't look real and you can't do it, it doesn't make sense. So when I do the exercise, I bring in artificial things that do not make any sense with what you're going to do. But if you can do that, it makes what's really real, mm-hmm. because you've conquered the obstacle. And there's a whole there's like a whole movement. I didn't tell you this. There's a whole movement of acting coaches and people. When someone does a monologue and they're talking on their phone and they do this, the whole movement of people saying, you don't do that. You go like this. So there's like two different camps of like, do I do it like this?
Over 40, under 40.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what? Because I'm kind of like,
I'm always like this.
yeah. No, it's this. And I'm like, well, that looks like I have a soup can on the side of my head. But it's totally interesting as where it's going. You know, although this kind of could be like an earpiece, right? With a microphone. I don't know.
I've been doing this
You
for 44 years. I can't stop.
This, people will be like, what are you doing?
Or
yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy how times change your props, even if they're your hand props, right?
Well, they do that with guns too. Like, this is not a gun. You're supposed to go like this or some. I have no idea.
Yeah, if you hold a gun, it's not like that. But when I was growing up, when we were shooting each other, we were doing this. So we weren't violent children. We just grew up with Star Wars and different things like that. So calm down, audience.
But I would say my coaching technique is difficult but encouraging, and then hopefully the light bulb goes off. And then there's some people that are like, I don't like this method, and that's fine. Because what I recommend is that you would go to a bunch of different coaches so you can find out what you like and what you don't like, and or get coached by different people, just so on your resume you have different layers of that. Like Joanna Bexton is an amazing coach. She was coached by William Esper, who coached me. So like we're all like cut from the same cloth, but that doesn't mean that anybody else from another school like Stella Adler or anything is different or better. I think a lot of it is getting a taste of a bunch of different things, and then you can stay with one person if you want, or keep moving through, because every coach has a different perspective on the whole thing. Mine is the technique and then a lot of the business of it, because I think for the most part, if someone really wants to do it, they're gonna get the technique within a couple of trainings, because they want it.
Yeah.
The part that they don't understand is the business part, and then they get sensitive and hurt and lost, and then they spiral out because they just are like, oh, I thought I was a good actor, but blah blah blah. It's like, oh, you know what? You gotta, show business, not show friends.
Yes, I've been told that on about 100 different occasions with interviewing people who are actually in the business. I actually had the opportunity to interview Pat Addis not too long ago on the podcast.
She's great. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's so great, and she's so direct and to the point. And I made a comment, she's like, well, Deneen, that is why it's show business. And I was like, you're right, Pat Addis, you're right.
That's another point I would say is, if you're going to do your own work and then you surround yourself with your friends that are going to video it and all that stuff, don't do it. Because your friends will come late. Your friends might not show up because they're your friends, and they're going to call you and say, oh, man, it's raining. Yeah. So you have people that you either pay or you give some in-kind service to as a professional. They're going to show up. They're going to do the work.
Yeah.
Your friends are your friends, and that's why they're your friends, because they let you down. That's what friends do. I mean, in a good way.
Well, that's a really, we went downhill real quick there. Your friends are your friends because they let you down.
In a good way, though, because you're always going to have your friends again. You'll bring them back. But if you needed someone to help you shoot a self-tape, they don't show up, you're going to be mad at them. Then they're going to take you out to dinner, and then they're your friends again. Yeah. But they didn't shoot the self-tape, so how did that help you? Right? Yeah. Like you need someone who's going to do it.
Yeah. Deal with professionals. When you should separate your business life and your professional life. Your business people are the people they're there with you in the business, and then your friends, you go out and have dinner with them, have coffee, have beers, but there should definitely be a delineation, because again, like you said, if you need that self-tape done and your friend doesn't show up, you're out of luck. So it's a really good tip too. Mm-hmm. So I have one more question for you, and then I'll let you go. So What is something you wish that you were told before you got into the entertainment industry? Like, what is one pointer you wish that you knew before you got started?
I wish, I wish that I would have acknowledged the fact that I need to be completely super flexible in my schedule, in my time, and all that stuff before I got into the business. Because I live in New York, I've been living here for 20 years, but I grew up in Connecticut, and I grew up in a structured family lifestyle where it was 9 to 5, weekends off, and all that stuff. And no one really told me that this thing, baby, there's no 9 to 5, there's no weekends off, there's no. So when I first started, I was like, it was hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that my time is not my time.
Yeah.
It is my time, but I have to be flexible enough to work on a weekend, work late at night, all that stuff.
Okay.
And no one in the business tells you that, because they're in the business and they just assume that you know that. But as a person that grew up in suburbia, and I was like, well, no, I'm sure the shoot is at 9 and then we end at 5 o'clock. And it's like, no, bro, it's nothing like that. Are you out of your mind? So I think, like, reframing your brain and understanding that what you're getting into is all consuming. And I think it's easier to get to that point as an actor and a performer as you start doing your own work and auditioning by yourself. Then you realize, oh, wow, this is different. This is not the bank. This is not, a job. This is like, I auditioned for something on Thursday. They might call me on Sunday and say, can you come in and shoot so, like, I think the biggest thing is flexibility and adaptability, which is hard because everybody wants that security and wants to, you grow up in that. So why wouldn't you want that? And that's, it's not saying anything's wrong with that. I'm just saying that when you come into show business, it's a totally different animal. It's a totally different animal. And the only way young actors and actors that are breaking in would want to get the definition of it is go to the Wikipedia and just type in freelance, because that's what we are. Job to job, day to day. We don't wait on Friday and get a paycheck. Like, it's not like that at all. And if you're not accustomed to that, or you can't adapt to that, then that's cool, because you can get a job in the industry that does that pays you that way and does it. But what we're trying to do is crazy.
Yeah, my job's 24/7 too.
2 weeks. You're going to spend 2 weeks, on the side of a mountain shooting a movie. Are you worried about 9 to 5 pay? Like, it's totally different mindset that you have to kind of accept and appreciate and understand that this is what the work is. Because you can go on the other side of the seesaw and be safe and do that, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But this when you go on this side, it's totally different.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster ride every day.
Yeah. And you have no and the most frustrating part of it is that you have no idea. Like, you can't sit there and say, oh, this is what's going to happen, because within 12 seconds they can tell you, oh, the script's changed. While you're in your trailer, you memorized all these lines, and then they say, no, those four pages are gone, and then this is what we want you to do, and we're shooting in 20 minutes. Okay. What? Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
But it's not a complaint. It's just a fact.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the truth of the industry.
Right. And they're trying to make you look better anyway. If they're rewriting the script, they obviously think there's something wrong. So you can't take offense to it. You can be like, well, oh, okay, they're trying to make me better.
Yeah. Awesome. On that note, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate all of your insights and your wisdom that you shared with everyone. And I really thank you again. Seriously, thank you for your time.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Very good. Well, thank everyone so much. Thank you for watching this episode of Hollywood Mindset TV. I hope that you enjoyed it, and make sure that you are on the lookout for future episodes because I have a lot of fantastic guests lined up. Thank you.